Hey, how are you? What's going on? How you doing? Hello. Hi. Yeah, me and you. That's right. Just me and you right now are going to have a pretty real conversation about how to make YouTube videos, or indeed any videos for that matter, because this is my process of how I make videos, and I hope by the end of this, it's going to help you out hugely. And if you have got some hints and tips along the way of this video that will help other folks, please drop them into the comments. First off, when I get an idea or think about an idea, you need somewhere to write it down. That could be in a notebook, that could be on a phone app, it could be wherever. That's the start. Now, you can get those ideas from, you could be in the shower, you could be driving the car, you could be walking to wherever. You could see another video from one of your favorite creators and go, actually, I've got an interesting point in that. You could pull a video idea out of comments that come on your own videos, or you could see someone else's video that's got a really good comment. So that's the first thing. That's where an idea can literally come from anywhere. I know that's cheesy, but think about any of the videos that you've made. It's come from somewhere. Generally, it's coming from anywhere. So that's point number one. You need somewhere to keep all of these ideas. Next step is actually, how do you flesh out these ideas? Now, there's a general rule of thumb in YouTube that is you start with your title and thumbnail. For me, and maybe for you, the thumbnail may be the last thing that you create, but certainly without a doubt, the title absolutely has to be the first thing that you think about. You got your idea, you now need to figure out a title. This is harder than you might think. But if you start leveraging some of the tools that are out there like ChatGPT, then it absolutely will help you hugely figure out an idea. I use ChatGPT to ideate around titles all the time. I've built some of my own private GPTs to help with titles, but basically you want something that's a little bit unique, something that's maybe a little bit interesting, something that's emotive in a title. Tell ChatGPT that, okay? If you look at something like Creator Hooks, it's a website. They've got a really good newsletter there. I'm not affiliated with them, but they're really useful for figuring out how to write good titles. Either way, ask ChatGPT, here's my video idea. I want 10 interesting, intriguing, clickable titles. And while you're in ChatGPT, ask it for a couple of thumbnail ideas while you're at it. Now, thumbnails are an art all unto themselves, but for me, they are something I kind of do last. I will know what the title is, I will know what the thumbnail is, I have a rough idea around it, but sometimes a lot of the time, it could be a gear review, or it could be using a lens or something out and about in a shoot. So for me, some of the time, it can be hard actually to create that thumbnail at the very start. So sometimes I will take the idea from the middle or the end of the video. There is nothing wrong with that. All the YouTube gurus start with a title and thumbnail. The thumbnail can be made as clickable after you make your video as before you make your video. You just need to have that idea in mind, because if you have the visual idea in mind, and here's the thing, right? Get ChatGPT, as I said earlier, to suggest a few ideas. Now, they might be completely unusable, but you're like, that's exactly what I kind of want. And then you can recreate that thumbnail from photos or whatever. And I think that's really important. You've got to take photos of yourself if you're doing that stupid YouTube face, just for the hell of it, right? Just to have something there a little bit more personal. Don't ever just dump it in a screenshot. Sometimes you could recreate what might look like a screenshot. It has to look legit. And the other thing when it comes to thumbnails that I'm really conscious of is the actual demographics. Now, that might sound like double Dutch to some, but what you need to think about, take a look at your YouTube analytics if you're just starting out. Think about your audience, okay? The analytics look at how old folks are. Older folks will not respond to the more clickbaity type of thumbnail. They may not respond to the bright and colorful thumbnail that controversial YouTubers have been using for quite some time. They might, but you gear the thumbnail to your actual audience. Their demographic, where they're based, their age, really, really important. Similar with the title. So we've covered the idea concept. We have our title. We have an idea for the thumbnail. Now, the next part that I do is try and flesh out the video. And that could be writing a script. That could be writing bullet points, but either way, it can be very hard and very daunting. But what I'm going to talk about is what I do quite a lot of the time, and this is going to be a huge help. This is actually hilarious. I'm doing so much moving because I have, another camera there. I'm shooting this on the Sony ZV-E1 right now, and also the Sony FX3 is the B cam, and I have it on manual focus. So every time I cut and move to a different scene, I have to go and adjust the manual focus. But anyway, small problems. If you're stuck trying to flesh out your video, okay, number one, have a couple of bullet points. Regardless of what it is, you need some kind of story arc. I'm always screaming about story. I'm sure people are tired of it by now, but you need a beginning, a middle, and an end. You need some kind of problem, solution, resolution, all of that. But start at the end and then work backwards. Okay, get to wherever you need to be. So you've shot all of the video maybe, but when it comes to the edit, figure out the ending and then go backwards. But it's the same with fleshing out the idea. What's the primary goal that you want to set? What you want your audience to take away? Do you want them to laugh, cry, whatever? So start at the end of fleshing out the idea, then do the intro, do the start of it, and you have to have some kind of a hook. You have to make it interesting for folks to stick around for the first 30, 60 seconds. Some of the gurus will say, oh, if you get somebody in for 60 seconds, man, they're going to stay for the whole video. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but have something that's a little bit compelling. At the start of this video, there was no real hook as such. There was no multiple cuts or anything. There was enough info maybe there that you'd go, oh, okay, I'm going to watch this guy. Or maybe you're just about to leave. Please don't, stick around. And then you kind of flesh out the idea of the parts in the middle. And that's a really good starting point. And speaking of starting, when you're actually writing these ideas down or fleshing out a video, the start is always the hardest. I mean, not the start of the video, but actually starting to do it, because you're going to procrastinate and think about this shit forever. And am I in focus? Sony ZV-E1, don't fail me now. And then it's a very daunting prospect to start. But once you do start, it will start to flow. So just start, no matter how hard it is. If you've, like, I'll be honest, I sat here for 2 hours this evening thinking about this video, but I was watching TV in the background and I just didn't want to do it. Sometimes you just don't want to do it. You know, those of you who go to the gym, it's like the days that you don't go to the gym or don't want to go to the gym are the ones that you actually should go. And when you do go, it's far more rewarding. And this video will be number 1 out of 10. I know that. So flesh out the goddamn idea, start at the end and work backwards, you know, or start at the end, then do the intro and the start, and then do the parts in the middle, because a lot of the time it's so hard to figure that out. Now, shooting the video is the next thing, and you can make this as difficult or as easy as you want. Now, there's a couple of things that probably don't make sense in the current world of YouTube, but at the same time, when I explain them, you'd be like, huh, he's onto something. Gear does matter. In one argument, gear matters because everybody's conditioned to looking at high quality, well-produced videos. I'm a big believer in that, but I think there is something hugely authentic with folks who just shoot on their phones or just shoot on a GoPro. I recently stumbled across a guy called Pete Santinello, I think. Really, like, millions of subscribers, millions of views. He's got nothing fancy about his productions from the videos that I've seen, and these all have 2, 3, 4 million views. But it's the content. He's wandering around parts of the States, you know, rural parts of the States, poor parts of the US, just talking to folks. It's really interesting. The audio isn't great. I think it's shot in a GoPro, maybe, possibly, or a 360 camera. And he's just, so there's something really authentic and integral about shooting with what you have. But the most important thing here is the content really does matter more than how it looks. And I would say audio is really important, because people will switch off bad audio a lot faster than they'll switch off bad video. Now, you can shoot it in 1 camera, 2 cameras, 3 cameras, 4 cameras, shoot it on whatever you want. The most important thing is you start shooting. Now, when you get into the settings, I have an ND filter on both of these cameras. Basically, an ND filter is like, sunglasses for the lens. So you can shoot at that cinematic 1/50 and you can get motion blur. I do feel that if you're a purist, motion blur and that 1/50 and 24p is really important. For most folks, they don't give a shit. I really believe that. They don't care. You're looking at something on a phone. I know there's a lot of folks, including myself, look at stuff on TV, but you're not really kind of going, oh yeah, this lack of motion blur there is just like, it's just taking me out of the scene. It can be distracting if you're shooting at a really high shutter rate, but in a lot of cases, just put the camera in auto and go for it, and then start experimenting with what you want to do. I've yet really to see comments over like 10 years nearly on YouTube about people complaining about frame rates on videos. Maybe I've just watched the wrong videos. So don't worry too much. The only thing I would say is make sure that if you have autofocus in the camera, that it works really, really well. No, it's not working. Now it's working. All right. Because people want to see you. Okay. They want to hear you, obviously, but they want to see you. So the focus side of it is really, really, really important. And I'm constantly looking here because right now, Sony's EVE1, I don't think, is focusing on me. So that's really important. And if there is a point where you feel it's not focusing, then just stop, adjust, and then go for it. That's number one, right? If you dial in manual focus, you have to remain perfectly still, because if you move a little bit forward or backwards, you will also come out of focus slightly, which can be a pain in the butt to fix. You can't really fix it. Maybe Topaz AI, you can sharpen it up a bit, but it'll still look maybe weird. Audio, use a mic. Use a mic, whether it's something like this Rode, which is complete overkill, but it looks kind of cool, right? Look, whatever you can do when it comes to shooting your video to have half decent audio. And what I mean by half decent audio is don't use the onboard camera mic. Look, sometimes it's okay. And a lot of the times they just fall apart. And if it's just, your audience needs to hear you more than they need to see you, right? So that's one thing. A cheap mic, a $10 mic, a $500, whatever you can do to get some kind of mic, it's really, really important. The other thing that's really, really important is your lens choice if you are shooting on a camera that can change lenses. It's just wide is very good because it's a bit more flattering. The higher the focal length, like it's 75, 85 mil, make your head look a little bit bigger. And for those of us who are big head challenged, we need the wide angle lens to make us as not big head challenged as possible. But wide angle lenses are a little bit limited at times as well. But wide is something that's enveloping and bringing the audience a little bit more immersed into the actual space. But you do you. Right, I think every camera bag, if you do have multiple lenses, if you have a camera that you're going to swap lenses, you need the wide, like a 16 mil. You maybe need like either a 16 mil or a 16 to 35. So if you've got some zoom, or a 24 to 70, all that, right? That's one thing. If you have another camera with just one lens built onto it, that's fine. Work with what you have. If your camera has poor stabilization, this is the other thing when it comes to shooting the videos. Don't walk around. Just stay still or dump it on a tripod, because shaky video is a huge distraction to the audience and it doesn't look great. There's a buddy of mine who shall remain nameless, and he makes amazing videos, but sometimes whatever camera he's using, the footage when he's moving is brutal. It's awful and it's a huge distraction. I'll stay watching because I'm a friend, but I'm just like, oh, will you just put the camera down? That's the important things when shooting. Obviously, simple things like don't shoot with the light behind you because you're going to get blown out. Don't shoot into the sun, all of these kinds of things. So we can get into 3-point lighting here if you're doing something at home. But what I would say is just have a light coming at you 45 degrees angle. It doesn't even have to be 45, but don't have it just bang straight on. Have some kind of angle because it hides the quadruple chins. It's a bit more flattering to your face. And more importantly, shadows create a little bit of interest. And you can get lights that are behind you and above you to make you pop a little bit more. All that can come at a later stage, right? The other one last thing before we get on to the editing side of this is that if you have a little home YouTube studio, put everything on the wall, put everything on the ceiling, on one of those bars that I've got up there. The less you have to do when it comes to shooting videos, the more likely you are to keep shooting videos. I can come in here, I can tell SIRI, my home assistant, to turn on my studio lighting, and all the lights come on, right? Including that little Govee lamp behind me. It all comes on. I have an option to have a camera mounted up there, or generally all I have to do is just open the tripod legs, throw the camera on, that's it, I'm good to go. So there is no friction. I'm not setting up lights or any of that stuff. No friction, boom, ready to go. Right, editing.